Detroit's population has continued to decline.
2024 is now the deadliest year on record for the city of Birmingham.
The warning signs for a 2025 crash are flashing everywhere, and the fallout could impact every corner of the country. Could your chosen city be the next to tumble? Here's what most don't see coming. Phoenix was once the poster child for easy living, a city where you could buy a home for $280,000 and watch its value nearly double in just a few years. By 2025, the median home price in Phoenix has fallen from its $510,000 pandemic peak, with some sellers slashing more than $100,000 just to get a bite. Over half the homes on the market have seen at least one price cut. The typical house now sits for 72 days, a far cry from the bidding wars of 2021. Inventory has exploded, up 114% in just 12 months. That means buyers have choices, but sellers are stuck in a race to the bottom. The days of remote workers flooding in are over. Many companies have called their people back to the office, and the steady stream of Californians has slowed to a trickle. For those who bought at the top, negative equity is now a real threat. Homeowners who stretched to buy at $500,000 are watching similar properties go for $400,000 or less. Some are staring down losses bigger than their annual salary. But the real storm cloud isn't just about prices. In 2023, Arizona put a hard stop on new construction in huge swaths of Phoenix's outer suburbs. The reason? Water. The state's groundwater moratorium means developers can't build unless they can prove a 100-year supply. Projects in places like Buckeye and Queen Creek, once magnets for affordable new homes, are now frozen, leaving empty lots and canceled plans. This restriction is no short-term fix. With no new water sources in sight, Phoenix's sprawl has hit a wall, and that once endless supply of new homes has vanished almost overnight. Investors are bailing. Institutional landlords who bought thousands of homes during the boom are now offloading properties, sometimes at a loss, just to get out before things get worse. Meanwhile, over 55% of listings are being discounted, and sellers are throwing in everything from mortgage buy-downs to free appliances just to move inventory. For retirees dreaming of a stable desert escape, Phoenix now looks less like a safe bet and more like a cautionary tale, where the biggest risk isn't just falling prices, but whether the tap will keep running at all. Las Vegas built its fortune on risk, but right now, the city's housing market is looking more like a busted flush than a royal flush. The last few years saw prices rocket to new highs, up nearly 60% since 2019, fueled by a flood of out-of-state buyers, short-term rental speculators, and big-money investors snapping up homes by the hundreds. But as the tables have turned, the city's luck is running out fast. The median wage in Las Vegas sits at just $64,000, yet the monthly payment on a typical home has ballooned to more than $3,100. That math never penciled out for most working families. Now, with mortgage rates stuck above 6%, buyers are folding, and sellers are slashing prices to stay in the game. Nearly 40% of listings have seen price cuts, some by $50,000 or more. Homes that used to sell in a weekend now linger for months, and open houses have turned into ghost towns. Behind the scenes, the real action is with investors. Last year alone, corporate landlords poured over $1 billion into Las Vegas homes, accounting for more than a fifth of all purchases. But the mood has shifted. As rents flatten and holding costs rise, many investors are quietly dumping properties, hoping to cash out before values tumble further. This wave of investor sales is flooding the market with inventory that regular buyers can't afford, pushing prices down even faster. The cracks are showing in the numbers. Nevada's foreclosure rate is now among the highest in the country, with 1 in every 1,821 homes in some stage of foreclosure. FHA and VA. Loans, which many Las Vegas buyers rely on, are seeing delinquencies climb above 10% for anyone who bought near the peak. Negative equity is creeping closer by the month. It's a dangerous cycle. As more homes hit the market, prices fall. And as prices fall, more owners, especially those with thin equity, start to walk away. For a city that once promised easy money and endless growth, the odds have flipped. Las Vegas is now facing a housing hangover, and for many, the only way out is to cut their losses and cash in their chips. Stockton, California, once a boomtown for families priced out of the Bay Area, became the largest U.S. city to declare bankruptcy in 2012. The city's collapse didn't just wipe out budgets, it gutted daily life. As property taxes and development fees evaporated, Stockton was forced to lay off more than 400 police officers in just a few years. Patrols thinned, response times stretched, and neighborhoods that once felt safe saw crime rates soar. By 2012, the homicide rate had doubled compared to just 5 years earlier, and burglaries and assaults surged as basic services vanished. Streetlights went dark, parks closed, libraries cut their hours to the bone. Residents watched as once busy storefronts emptied out, while abandoned homes fell into foreclosure and blight crept block by block. The city's pension obligations didn't disappear, though. Stockton still owed millions to retired workers, even as it struggled to keep the lights on. For homeowners, the pain was personal. Foreclosures flooded the market, driving down prices and trapping families in homes worth far less than their mortgages. A decade later, the scars remain. Foreclosure filings in Stockton are ticking up again, and affordability is under new pressure as wages lag behind rising costs. The lesson from Stockton is clear. When a housing bust hits a city's budget, the fallout ripples through every corner of daily life. Services that residents count on, police, parks, libraries, become luxuries the city can no longer afford. Crime rises, quality of life drops, and a downward spiral takes hold. Stockton's bankruptcy stands as a warning for cities betting on endless growth. When the housing market turns, it's not just home values at risk. The whole fabric of a city can unravel, leaving residents to pick up the pieces in the aftermath. Detroit's skyline still carries the scars of a city that once powered the nation's dreams. In 2025, the Motor City's housing market sits at a crossroads. The numbers look tempting. $85,000 for a median home, a 13% jump in just a year. But behind those figures, the foundation is shaky. Stellantis, the auto giant, recently cut 2,450 jobs at the Warren Truck Assembly Plant. Add in layoffs at Mack and Jefferson, and thousands of families are suddenly wondering how to make the next mortgage payment. The city's population has shrunk by more than half since 1950. Whole neighborhoods have thinned out, with 1 in 3 Detroit properties foreclosed between 2005 and 2015. Today, about 40 square miles, almost a third of the city, is vacant land. The result? Service gaps everywhere. Fire stations and police precincts are stretched thin. Basic repairs drag on for months. Even as home values tick up in some pockets, the tax base can't keep up with the cost of keeping the lights on and the water running. Residents who stuck it out through the worst years now face a different kind of risk. Living in a city where a block can go dark overnight if a few more families move out. For retirees, that means low prices come with a catch: spotty services, unpredictable tax hikes, and the constant question of whether the neighborhood will still feel like home in 5 years. Across the state line, Gary, Indiana tells a similar story, only the numbers are starker. After the steel mills went quiet, Gary's population collapsed to a third of its peak. Nearly 1 out of every 3 homes is vacant. Whole blocks have been bulldozed, replaced by overgrown lots and chain-link fences. The city's tax rolls have shrunk so much that basic maintenance, roads, sewers, streetlights, has become a juggling act. Home prices hover just above $50,000, but buyers face a heavy lift. Abandoned houses next door, shuttered schools, and a city government struggling to deliver even the basics. Both cities show what happens when a local economy falls out from under a housing market. It's not just about cheap homes, it's about what's missing. Grocery stores shut their doors, ambulance response times stretch, and city services become patchwork. For anyone thinking about moving in, the real price isn't on the listing sheet. It's in the uncertainty about what tomorrow will bring. And for those who've spent decades here, the challenge isn't just holding on to a house, it's holding together a community when so much of what made it work has slipped away. Cleveland and Youngstown once promised a solid middle-class life, steady paychecks, affordable homes, and hospitals that anchored entire neighborhoods. Now, that safety net is unraveling. In 2024, residents in Warren, just outside Youngstown, braced for the loss of Trumbull Regional Medical Center and Hillside Rehabilitation Hospital. Together, these two facilities represented more than 400 beds and nearly 1,000 jobs. For weeks, it looked like the doors would close for good. Nurses, janitors, rehab techs, hundreds faced pink slips. Families wondered where they would go in an emergency. Ambulance routes stretched longer. The nearest alternative, Mercy's St. Joseph Warren Hospital, sat only 1.5 miles away. But with Trumbull's Level 3 Trauma Center and advanced cardiac care on the chopping block, the region's backup plan was looking thin. A last-minute deal kept both hospitals open, but the warning shot was clear. Even before the bankruptcy scare, Mercy Health had already shuttered birthing centers in Cincinnati and scaled back services at other locations. In Maumee, St. Luke's Hospital went dark in 2023, ending a 125-year run. These aren't isolated cases. Ohio's healthcare system is consolidating, not expanding. For retirees and families rooted in these towns, the options are shrinking fast. The days of walking into a local ER or seeing a specialist around the corner are fading. Now, a routine checkup might mean a 40-minute drive, and a medical emergency could mean waiting in line behind patients from 3 counties over. But the stress isn't limited to healthcare. On the housing front, the odds are stacked against anyone who bought a home in the last 2 decades. In Cleveland's 44108 and 44112 zip codes, more than a quarter of homeowners are trapped in negative equity, owing more on their mortgages than their homes are worth. That's not just a statistic, it's a barrier. It means families can't move for a better job, can't downsize, can't follow their kids or grandkids to someplace with more promise. Across Ohio, over 91,000 mortgages are seriously underwater, the 3rd highest count in the country. The neighborhoods hit hardest are the ones with aging homes, thinning job opportunities, and shrinking tax bases. Young people have taken the hint. In some parts of Northeast Ohio, 6 out of 10 college grads leave within a few years. The population keeps graying, and the tax base keeps shrinking. That's a recipe for more service cuts, fewer bus routes, longer waits for city repairs, and even more pressure on already stretched hospitals and clinics. For older residents, the risk is clear. The place they plan to retire might not have the doctors, nurses, or basic services they counted on. And for anyone stuck in a home that's worth less than the mortgage, leaving isn't just hard, it's nearly impossible. The slow-motion crisis in Cleveland and Youngstown isn't just about falling home prices or boarded-up storefronts. It's about the steady erosion of the things that once made these communities feel like home. Downtown St. Louis, once a symbol of Midwestern promise, now feels more like a caution sign than a destination. The numbers tell the story. More than 500 businesses have vanished from the city's core since 2019. Office vacancy sits at 19%, with entire towers, like the Railway Exchange and the AT&T building, standing empty, their lights off for years. Even longtime local institutions like the St. Louis Business Journal have packed up and moved out, echoing a wave of companies heading to the suburbs or beyond. Restaurants that tried to hang on, like Simply Delicious on Pine, closed after repeated burglaries and a steady loss of foot traffic. Owners cite the same reasons: break-ins, safety worries, and too few customers to keep the doors open. For retirees or anyone thinking about a fresh start, the sticker price on a downtown condo is only half the equation. The bigger question is what happens after you move in. Violent crime rates remain among the highest in the country. The odds of being a victim in St. Louis are 1 in 70, numbers that don't just rattle nerves, but shape daily routines. Even as the city celebrates a drop in overall crime and the lowest homicide count in over a decade, the reality on the ground still feels uneasy. The most recent data shows 150 homicides in 2024, down from previous years, but still a world away from what most would call safe. Property crime is another constant, with a 1 in 16 chance of theft or burglary. In some neighborhoods, locked doors and security cameras are just part of the furniture. Birmingham, Alabama, faces a different kind of crisis. The city tied its all-time record for homicides in 2024, hitting 148 deaths, 7 times the national per capita average. The violence is concentrated in neighborhoods already struggling with poverty and disinvestment, making the city a tough sell for anyone prioritizing peace of mind. For families and retirees, the risk isn't just statistical. It's the reality of living, where sirens are a nightly soundtrack and the headlines rarely bring good news. Healthcare, the other pillar of a stable retirement, is under real strain in both cities. Missouri hospitals report 14% of staff jobs are vacant, with nearly 1 in 6 registered nurse positions unfilled, well above the national average. At SSM Health SLU Hospital in St. Louis, a quarter of the nursing staff turned over in a single year, leaving many units staffed almost entirely by temps. Patient care suffers when experienced nurses leave, and new hires burn out quickly, unable to keep pace with the demands. Alabama's outlook is even bleaker. Nearly 39,000 nurses are expected to leave the profession in the next 4 years, while the state's pay ranks near the bottom nationally. Many nurses are now working second jobs just to get by, and the pipeline of new graduates can't keep up with the losses. For anyone weighing a move, these gaps mean longer ER waits, fewer specialists, and more uncertainty about whether the care you need will be there when it matters most. In both St. Louis and Birmingham, the low cost of living comes with a catch. The real risk isn't just what you pay for a house, it's what you might lose in safety, services, and peace of mind. For couples planning their next chapter, the numbers behind the headlines matter. A cheap mortgage can't buy back a sense of security or guarantee that the nearest hospital is fully staffed when you need it. In these cities, the true price of admission is measured in more than dollars. Buffalo, New York, sits at the crossroads of affordability and adversity. A city where low prices can come with high hidden costs. For decades, Buffalo attracted buyers with median home prices under $200,000. But that bargain comes with a catch. Winters here aren't just cold, they're expensive. In 2024, average monthly heating bills soared past $300 for a modest home, and insurance premiums have followed suit, driven by lake-effect blizzards and aging roofs that groan under the weight of February snow. These aren't one-time spikes, they're baked into the cost of living. See, year after year. But the real squeeze isn't just about the weather. The math on mortgages has changed for everyone, especially for retirees living on fixed incomes. With 30-year rates stuck above 7%, buying even a cheap Buffalo home now means a monthly payment that's hundreds more than just 2 years ago. For a couple considering a $180,000 house with 20% down, the difference between a 3% and a 7% mortgage adds up to nearly $400 extra a month. That's the price of a car payment or a winter's worth of groceries, gone in interest alone. The Federal Reserve's 250 basis point spread over treasuries has locked in this pain, making it nearly impossible for many to move without taking on a financial burden they didn't sign up for. It's not just the bills that are rising. Buffalo's population has been shrinking for decades, especially among younger residents. Census data shows that more than half of college graduates leave within a few years, chasing jobs and sunshine in places where the cost of staying warm doesn't eat up their paychecks. For those left behind, the city's tax base keeps eroding, and services, from snow removal to street repairs, get stretched thinner every year. That leaves older homeowners stuck between a rock and a hard place. Sell and pay top dollar for a mortgage somewhere new, or stay put and watch costs climb while the neighborhood around them slowly empties out. Inventory isn't the problem here. Listings have quietly piled up as more families look for an exit, but buyers are holding back, spooked by high rates and the prospect of even higher utility bills. It's a cycle that feeds on itself. Sellers cut prices, but the monthly math still doesn't work for most. Meanwhile, insurance companies are tightening requirements or pulling out of high-risk zip codes, forcing some owners to pay for costly specialty policies just to keep their homes insured through another storm. Buffalo's story is a warning for anyone looking at a map and thinking cheap homes mean easy living. The real cost isn't just the sticker price, it's the relentless drain of heating, insurance, and interest, all set against a backdrop of demographic decline. For retirees especially, the dream of downsizing to a bargain city can quickly turn into a financial trap with no easy way out. In today's market, it's not enough to look for low prices. You have to ask what you're really buying and what you'll be paying for, month after month, long after the moving truck pulls away. In Phoenix, more than half the homes for sale have cut prices by over $100,000, and Nevada's foreclosure rate now ranks among the highest in the nation. From the Sun Belt to the Rust Belt, this documentary has shown how double-digit home price drops, record inventory spikes, and migration outflows are reshaping America's urban map. The collapse of factories in Detroit and Gary, the 2012 bankruptcy of Stockton, and the closure of hospitals in Ohio all reveal how housing markets are tied to jobs, infrastructure, and basic services. Yet, some key questions remain. How will rising interest rates and climate costs affect future buyers? Will shrinking tax bases further erode city services? While the specifics of each city's recovery or further decline are still unknown, the evidence is clear. Ignoring job trends, demographic shifts, and local costs can turn a so-called bargain city into a long-term risk. As public records and census data confirm, the warning signs are visible now for anyone willing to look.